Okay, we're going to talk today about democratic ideals, reflections on the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. The last lecture, I was talking to you about Hobbes and Locke and their differing philosophies on the state of nature, as well as what an individual's responsibility to government and vice versa was for. What does government owe the people? And so this is going to figure pretty prominently, especially Locke's ideas in terms of the social contract and what government is set up to do in talking about the Declaration of Independence and as well as the Constitution. So today, I'm going to introduce some concepts to you. We'll talk about them. I guess you could call these vocabulary terms. And the first one we're going to talk about, as you see highlighted, is limited government. Okay. And where do we get this concept of limited government? We get it through the Enlightenment. And the ideas, particularly of John Locke, Baron de Montesquieu, and some other big thinkers of the time during the Enlightenment period. And so, really what defines our new nation right after the revolution is this real desire by the founders and everyone else for a limited government, that we don't have a tyranny set up by government based on tyranny because we've been living for a couple of hundred years under a tyranny. And so there's a huge desire to set up a limited government and keep that power as limited as possible. Okay, so understand that this limited government concept didn't start from the minds of the founding fathers. The Enlightenment talks pretty extensively about that, and the Enlightenment was during the 17th century, 1600s. So the impact of the Enlightenment absolutely impacted the founders and many of their concepts of how to set up this new government. Okay, so another concept of the Enlightenment, and we talked about this between Hobbes and Locke, is this idea of natural rights and a social contract, as well as the state of nature. So all three of these ideas were talked about in the last lecture. Okay, so first of all, let's look at natural rights. And natural rights means that these are rights that you are born with. These aren't given to you by a king or by anywhere else. You're literally born with these types of natural rights. And so these rights are bestowed upon us from our creator. That's taken directly out of the Declaration of Independence. They're, again, not granted or taken away by a monarch. And so we'll get into those, but we know that Locke talks about life, liberty, and property. He is the one that used those natural rights he defined as life, liberty, and property. And so we know that when Jefferson when he writes in the Declaration of Independence, he uses at least 2 out of 3, life, liberty. Then the third one he modifies just a little bit. All right. So again, the social contract, and a contract is an agreement. Whenever you set up a contract with someone, you shake hands on an agreement. That's essentially what a contract is. And so the social contract is the relationship between people and a government that's set up. And so what we see here is something known as popular sovereignty. This is another very important concept. Popular sovereignty means that power stems from the people and not from the government. Okay, so this new nation that is being set up in the United States, it has popular sovereignty at its center. There's no monarch, in fact. It's really the power comes from the people, and the people actually give power to government through a social contract. And so consent, as you see underlined, that means permission. So a government actually, from our definition of the United States, our government is supposed to operate by the consent of the people. Okay. Interestingly enough, right below here is this idea that if government doesn't cooperate and doesn't, act on the social contract from the consent of the people, it's the people's responsibility to overthrow that government. So clearly revolutionary ideas coming out from Rousseau, but actually, in fact, under the Declaration of Independence, there's a description of why we need to sever our ties with the crown because of the manner in which they've ruled over us tyrannically, but not through consent. Okay, So let's talk a little bit more about a couple of other definitions. This idea of republicanism, as you can see here underlined, this is an Enlightenment idea as well. It's a form of government, like just stated, it serves the people and not the other way around. But how does this work? It works, this consent that's set up is we elect people who actually create laws in the public interest, that we literally elect people to operate on our behalf. We don't have a direct democracy. We have a Republican style democracy or constitutional republic, meaning that we choose people, they craft laws, and they interact and they do the right thing. But again, if they're not operating correctly, we have the right, even the responsibility to overthrow, or let's just say remove them from office. Okay. Another very important concept from the Enlightenment is this idea of three branches of government. This was written about. As a matter of fact, it was written about in the Roman and Grecian times as well, Greek and Roman eras. But this idea of three branches of executive, legislative, and judicial branches of government, a division of these three. And so, why would they divide it into three separate houses? Because this would allow that the houses to actually interact with each other, and if necessary, check the power of the other two branches to make sure that not one branch operates out of the bounds of their authority and their power. So it actually sets up a way by which government is carefully operated upon, and the other two branches are right there to oversee the operation of the third branch if it starts to get out of hand. All right, let's talk specifically about the Declaration of Independence. What is it? It's a document, it's really kind of a declaration of war. It's a document that actually gives a justification for separation from England. There's a whole list of problems, let's just say, charges against the British government that literally says this is why we are separating from you because of these various reasons. Okay, but the beginnings, of course, of the Declaration, we know, there's an explanation when, in the course of human rights, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bonds that hold together with one another. Um, that's the beginning. And then we know the second paragraph famously that says, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So there it is. Very famously in the Declaration are these statements that shows natural rights, that people are born with these rights. No monarch, no government can take them away. All men are created equal. Okay, so that borrows heavily from John Locke's concept of natural rights in the social contract. Remember that Locke says life, liberty, and property. I believe that Thomas Jefferson, it was urged by John Adams and a couple of others who kind of was looking over his shoulder while he was drafting the Declaration, say, why don't we substitute life, liberty, and property with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? That's a little more, let's just say it's not as detailed as property, because not everybody in this new nation is going to be owning property. All right, now we're going to move to the Constitution, our second very important document to understand. It's the blueprint for our government, and it also contains lots of Enlightenment influences. Now, James Madison brought a copy of the Constitution to the Constitutional Convention of 1787. However, we're going to talk about this in a subsequent lecture. There are many flaws in the document that he brought through, and there was a lot of necessity to actually go over this document that Madison had brought in and make some real changes to it. However, generally speaking, the document that Madison brought in contained a model for representative government, where the elected representatives would legislate or make laws on behalf of us, the people. Also contained in the Constitution, of course, are separation of powers, legislative, executive, and judicial powers, as well as checks and balances, the ability for each one of those branches to oversee the other to make sure that not one of them would run away with power. So anyway, that's the Constitution in a nutshell. So of course, it's important to understand that the Enlightenment and their ideas behind limited government and other major concepts, this is what provided us with the really important insights into the democratic ideals that go into the Declaration and the Constitution. They emphasize the protection of natural rights, popular sovereignty, republicanism, and the separation of powers. Hopefully that is helpful.